Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to reintroduce to you now. Courtney Luna is a returning guest on our show. Be sure to check out her first appearance on episode 402 of Boundless Body Radio. Courtney Luna is a former yacht chef turned stay-at-home mom and carnivore content creator. She shares her recipes and health journey as she heals her body with a carnivore diet. Courtney is the author of the brand new cookbook, Carnivore in the Kitchen, a fresh and fun approach to meat-based meals. Her book provides curated meal plans and grocery lists, which take the stress out of answering everyone's favorite question, what's for dinner? The carnivore lifestyle can work for the whole family. And in a section devoted to an animal foods-based diet for kids, which also includes fruit, Courtney explains how to emphasize nutrition without demonizing foods. Whether you are a carnivore diet devotee or are just looking to try something new, Carnivore in the Kitchen encourages experimentation and innovation by inspiring you to go beyond traditional meat dishes and discover new preparations and delicious flavor combinations. You can find her across all social media on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at it's Courtney Luna. Excuse me. Courtney Luna, what I'm so honored is to welcome you back to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I'm glad I got the wear your gray t-shirt and sit on the floor memo. Like we are vibing.
We are vibing, of course. It's so funny. I didn't know you also recorded content while sitting on the floor. Yeah, just kind of a weird habit that I started and it stuck. And so here I am just sitting down with my toe spacers and sitting on my grounding mat and yeah, just having a good old time.
Yep, here I am too. Maybe I can sell some books and, buy a desk and a chair.
That's great. Our purpose today is to sell some books to fund that desk and chair. Courtney, okay, it was a few days ago. I received your book. Thank you so very much for sending it to me. I really, really appreciate it. I thumbed through it, immediately knew that I liked it. As soon as I got through it, hands down, this is the best carnivore diet cookbook I have found, and I've seen a lot of them. I have a lot of them, and this one is the best one by far. No offense to anybody else, but you knocked it way out of the park. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I was a little nervous doing the whole thing because I think a lot of these cookbooks they have a team that is cooking the food and shooting it and styling it. So can't talk either. I actually had to do all that myself. So a little tiny corner in my kitchen, I'm doing all the cooking and then I throw it down on a little staged thing and take all the pictures myself. And I'm not a photographer. I'm not a food stylist. Like I'm a cook, so I can do the cooking part. So yeah, I think my editing team did a really good job at like cropping and brightening things up. And I was actually very pleasantly surprised. I'm like, oh, I didn't do as bad as I thought I would do. So thank you.
It completely stuns me that you did that yourself. It looks completely professional. Looks like it was done by somebody who is like formally trained in that. So congratulations on making all the food look really good. It's plated really well. Yeah, we'll get into the recipes and everything. First, also, I wanted to bring up, I've got a client I've been working with. It's a couple, primarily the female. They live in New Zealand, an absolutely lovely couple. We work with Carnivore Diet with them. So shout out to them. They'll know who they are. And our last session, the last question she had for me, since she's been seeing it going around on social media, was, hey, did you get Courtney's cookbook? Which she has had pre-ordered for months now. She's been waiting for it. And I don't think the shipping to New Zealand is very, very cheap either. So she's been waiting for it. I got to show it to her and she said also, it looks amazing. And I said, well, here's a great opportunity. You've been following Courtney for a long time. Do you have any listener questions for her? And she said, yes, without hesitating. Why does Courtney poke the bear so much on social media?
I can't help it. I'm just like, I don't know. I guess that's my personality. I'm just kind of sarcastic and snarky. And I don't know. They poke me first, so I just poke them back.
That's fair. They were wondering also if it was part of like American humor or whatever, but I know how much kind of negativity that you get in the space, which is so dumb. So I'm glad you're poking back in favor of the rest of us.
Yeah, you gotta have fun. You need to laugh so you don't cry, essentially.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, thank you for answering her question. I love that. I also got to run into you again this year at Hack Your Health. This year, I was primarily hanging out with James Lehman, the carnivorist, and Tony Pascola from Primal Foundations. We had an awesome time. It was great to see everybody. And James kind of hurried up to me at one point. He's like, hey, Courtney's going to be on stage. She's doing this food presentation. She's totally nervous that nobody's going to show up. So we're going to go and support our friend. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Let's go and like grab a chair. I'll be sure to be there like 10 minutes early so that, we can just sit like right in the front row, excuse me. Holy cow, Courtney, you had the place packed. There was barely standing room in that area. So many people were there. That was amazing.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. I actually have the goosebumps now that you say that. Like, I totally felt the love. Like, everybody was so supportive, but it's also kind of like, everyone crowds the sample booths at Costco. Like, I think they also knew I was going to give out a taste test. So, I think that's part of the reason. But yeah, I mean, it was amazing because I was so nervous. Oh my gosh, I get knots in my stomach just thinking about it. But yeah, it was amazing to like see the seats filled and everyone like hovering around. I'm like, okay, I can do this.
You did a great job. It was a great presentation. I like that you did admit that you were nervous. You said it in like the first minute or so as you were standing up there, but you did a great job. It didn't show that you were nervous. I would not have guessed that. You looked like you were in your natural habitat for sure. You did a great job.
Thanks. Yeah, sometimes I feel like you just have to like address the elephant in the room. Like, "Hi, I'm terrified to be here, so I just have to let you know." And then I kind of feel better and now that I say that, so I feel like we're all in it together. And then I had my emotional support husband standing on the side of the stage, so that was nice too.
Jeff is awesome. I asked you before the call what he was doing, and unfortunately, he's not on, so you have to tell him hello. But yeah, he's awesome to hang out with as well. Really love both of you guys. So on that note, I didn't get to taste it. You did biscuits and gravy. Is that correct? How did the recipe go?
Yeah, so I was debuting this recipe there. It's a brand new one for my book, but I was giving it to everybody at KetoCon, and yeah, make these little biscuits with pork panko, butter, and egg, and then the gravy is sausage with I think cream cheese and cream. I'm so glad to have my own book because I have to Google my recipes sometimes, so it will be nice to be able to flip through it. Um, but it was a huge hit, and I mean, you can't go wrong when when something is slathered in dairy, you know? So, yeah, I'm glad everyone liked it because it's a little intimidating putting yourself out there and getting, like, something you've created reviewed. Like, if you don't like it, please don't tell me, I'm too sensitive for that, but yeah, it seemed like everyone liked it.
That's great. I get really self-conscious about sharing my food with other people too, so I totally understand that. But yeah, I didn't talk to anybody who didn't say that it was absolutely amazing. So great job there. Obviously, we're here to talk about your book, which is fabulous. Like I said, before we do, remind us who you are. It's been a while since you've been here. Episode 402 was almost 2 years ago, and I just have to say, you and I. Discussing that, you put together an awesome kind of 101 for people that wanted to try the carnivore diet. There was a lot of really practical stuff in there. So if anybody is curious about carnivore diet, that's one of my favorites to refer out to send to people, because you did such a great job like highlighting things and making things be very simple and practical. But if you don't mind, remind us how you got into the space, and yeah, how you ended up becoming carnivore.
Yeah, so I started carnivore, it was about 2 years ago in May, and long history of yo-yo dieting. Like, I went to my first Weight Watchers meeting at the age of 13, and I wasn't even that overweight. I just, I thought my mom encouraged me to go, but she has since watched my interviews, and she's like, "I did not tell you to go, you asked to go." So we'll get that sorted right here. Um, so yeah, I mean, you name it, I've tried it, like Slim Fast Diet, Special K, the cereal, egg fast, cabbage soup, like just an unhealthy relationship with food. I think I got a little bit warmer as I found paleo, like Mark Sisson's book in 2010, I believe, Primal Blueprint. I'm like, oh, okay, tried that, dabbled in keto on and off for 7 years. And I stopped doing keto after my second baby. I lost 50 pounds again for like the third time. And I got caught up in the anti-diet culture BS. And I'm like, yeah, all foods fit, no foods are off the table, everything in moderation. Gained 40 pounds in 4 months. So my husband was sending me Dr. Paul Saladino's TikToks at the time for like a month. And finally, I'm like, why are you sending me these? Like, should we not be eating vegetables? I'm like, this is so weird. He's like, oh, I need to, go research it. So he goes to YouTube University, gets all the info, and he's like, let's try it. And I was just feeling so awful at the time, like sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, that I'm like, let's just give it a shot. So I was going into it for weight loss purposes. I don't think I ever thought like about my health. I think it was more like, oh, you have a good goal, you're at your goal weight, then you're healthy. So I got a lot of surprise benefits that I wasn't expecting because I wasn't really following influencers at the time. So I didn't know all the things that could come. So I'm down around like 55 pounds so far. I still have like maybe 10, 15 to go. We'll see how that goes. Like off of medication, my Zoloft for depression and anxiety, My acne has cleared up. I've had horrible skin my whole life. And, all the other ones like no gas and bloating and, just feeling good all the way around. And yeah, it's been life changing for me.
Yeah, okay. This might be an unfair question because these things go together. Like you lose weight and all these other things improve. But I'm just curious if I said you could choose one, like yes, you can lose the weight, but you keep all the acne and you're still on the medication and that kind of thing, or you don't lose any weight, but all of those other things improve. Which one would you choose now, being on this side of it?
All the health benefits. Yeah.
Wow,
I
wow.
mean, the mental health is so huge that I would be 50 pounds heavier again just to not have the issues that I had, like the dark times. I mean, I still have some anxious moments, but it's totally, totally different. I feel so much better.
I hope that really sinks in for the listener. I was hoping that was going to be how you answered that. I hope that sinks in because as somebody who has like literally only wanted to lose weight, found a diet that does that, but then fixes all these other things that are now more prized by you than the weight loss itself that you were seeking in the beginning. Yeah, I really hope that sinks in, and that does not surprise me at all. Being in this community, like seeing all the amazing stories of people out there. How has your carnivore diet evolved and changed over time? I know that when we talked before, I think you said you'd been doing more dairy than you had previously, and you didn't think it was going that well, and so you wanted to eliminate the dairy. But how's your carnivore diet shifted over time?
Yeah, I've actually got a little bit lenient lately, and I don't know why. I feel like it's easy to like let things slip in. And like in the beginning, I didn't even use seasonings. And now like I'll use seasonings here and there. I don't really feel like I like need them. I'm not craving them, but sometimes they're like, oh, they're good and I'll have some. And I've recently added in, like I've always done the unflavored protein. And recently I've had some with stevia. And it's like, but why am I doing this? And then I'm almost like contemplating when I'm getting stuff for my kids, like, because they're not strict carnivore, like having a bite of something or like, one of their healthy chips. And I'm like, I never felt that before. So I'm kind of aware of like what's going on recently. Just, I don't know what it is, like just letting things slip. Now I'm not, having bites of other things, but it's been more tempting than normal. And I don't know why. So yeah, I am strictly animal products and meat. So I am having some dairy. I do keep it minimal. And yeah, I guess that's it. I just try and keep it simple and then I throw in, one of my fun recipes here and there, but it's not like I'm, making carnivore lasagna every night. We eat pretty simply for the most part.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, we mentioned poking the bear early in this conversation. Maybe that's what we kind of subconsciously do to some of our addictions and addictive behaviors is kind of poke the bear just a little bit with a bite here, a bite there. And it can definitely be a slippery slope. But I love how you've always been able to do things like you said, like keep things very, very simple, which leads us kind of to your content and to your book. This has always been a strong suit of yours. You've always been able to make things be really understandable and practical and simple to understand. Was that from you kind of finding a lack of that in the community?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe I think it's just what I do. I've never really thought about it. I think I just keep it simple because I don't understand half of the science that everybody's talking about. So for me it's very basic. Like I can't talk about the things that say like Ken Berry's talking about. Like it's just out of my realm. So I feel like for me it's just like more of how to make this a lifestyle. Like you've already decided to eat this way and you got the science and you understand why. And I'm just here to like guide you so you're not overthinking it. I think a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, how do you eat this way the rest of your life? And for me, it's just very easy and simple. Um, but I forget that people also need to be taught how to like boil water. So I think just sharing how simple this can be and how to feed your family and yeah, just keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, cool. Great at that. Okay, so the cookbook itself, when did you first start thinking about doing a cookbook?
I've always, had it in the back of my mind. Even before carnivore, I was showing up online doing like keto and low carb stuff. So it's always been an idea. I even wrote like in my notes on my phone, like things I'm trying to manifest. And I put in like getting a publishing deal because I've even talked to my husband about this. I knew if I were to do it on my own, it would take years. I just wouldn't have I would procrastinate things or you know what I mean? You wouldn't make as much time because it was very time consuming. So I'm like, it would be nice to have a team working with me so they can give me deadlines. I stick to it. They help me organize everything. And then it worked because they found me. So they found me on TikTok, and I had already heard about them because I was looking like, okay, if I do write a book, what do I do? Do I self-publish it or do I shop it around to publisher? So I'm like, okay, let me see what publishing company Maria Emmerich has used, Dr. Baker, Dr. Ken Berry. So they've all worked with my publisher. So I had already like had them in mind. So when I got the email, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this spam? Like, is this true? Like, it was just, it was amazing. So yeah, luckily they found me and the rest is history.
Wow, that's awesome. What was the hardest part about writing the book?
I would almost say like the edits. I think, I mean, developing the recipes were tough, but I had no idea what I was getting into with the edits because when you turn it in and they come back red, like completely solid red, you're like, oh, okay. So it was very tedious and they are very thorough. Like I had an amazing team of editors, but very thorough on, certain words and being consistent. So that was probably, I mean, I cried a lot during the whole process, not gonna lie, but yeah, I would say the editing was a lot because it's just not what I do. I'm not a writer, so that was just challenging for me.
Yeah, the most challenging class I ever took in college was business writing, and the hardest part about it is you were always trying to make everything shorter and shorter and shorter. Where had just come from high school, and you're trying to make everything longer. You're turning in 5-page reports on books I didn't read. I had to just fill it with like as many words as possible. So getting to the point and getting short is very, very challenging. Is that kind of what you mean with editing?
Yeah. Yeah, so trying to be, like, concise and just little things like in your first sentence, you can't say add tallow to the pan because you can't add it to something if nothing's in there. So things like put, in place, and just different, like, verbiage and wording, but, like, using the same sentences in a way for all the other recipes. Like, they sent me an 80-page document, how to write recipes.
Oh my
I
goodness.
mean, clearly I didn't do a good job because it comes back red, but yeah, it's just it's a lot goes into it.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, the end product's great, like I said. Okay, so we start in the book by telling your own personal story, which I really love, and then you get into Carnivore 101. So, what are some of the concepts you cover in that first chapter to kind of introduce this concept to people?
Yeah, so I break it down a little bit because some people don't know what carnivore is, and there's different versions. You could do ketovore, you can do animal based. So, talk about that. And I go over because macros is a question I get a lot. So, I give kind of like a blanket statement on like where you can start out with macros and make changes from there. And just some, I guess, frequently asked questions. So, I talk about poop in a cookbook. Like, how gross is that? But, that's people's concern. Trying to think what else is in there.
There's
Just
a
like
lot. There's a lot
yeah.
that you put in there. It's great. It's like there's not just a shopping list, but like ingredients. There's all the tools that you use in the kitchen. Like it's pretty. It's a nice guide.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so just like a lot of the basics just to like get you started on carnivore, get you started in the kitchen. Yeah, the different kitchen tools and yeah, I hope it can be helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, gotcha. I like what you said when you were writing about the air fryer. I know that's one of your favorite things to use, but you said you hesitated because you didn't want to add another thing to your kitchen. I I just did the same thing. At Hack Your Health, I met Audra Coleman, who does dehydrating. You also include a dehydrator for some of your meals, and her food was so good. She shared some of her like the dehydrated pork and ribeye with me. It was delicious, but I was like, I don't want to add this big bulky thing to my kitchen, and it's going right now in my kitchen, dehydrating some ground beef. And so it can be a challenge at first to decide like what things are we going to invest in, what things are going to be worth it, and what things are not going to be worth it. So on that note, um, on the lesser end, the cheaper end, like how easy can you make it? And also, if somebody is willing to invest more money or has a space and they want to add other things, what are some of your favorites?
So I also have a dehydrator. I love the meat chips. I have 2 air fryers. I have not like I need to consolidate some things, but air fryer, I use it daily. Instant Pot is great. I feel like you can get rid of your old crock pots and get an Instant Pot instead because you can cook slowly, or what I use it for is when you need to do something quickly, and you can also do frozen meats in the Instant Pot, whereas if you put a frozen meat in the crock pot, it's such a slow cook that it will be, like, in the danger zone too long as it
Oh,
defrost. So, for me, I don't use my crock pot anymore. I'll use the Instant Pot for those types, and it's just nice to have it be so quick. So, yeah, I mean, I guess one could survive without a dehydrator, but air fryer and Instant Pot, use them all the time.
yeah, gotcha. Okay. And then on that note, if somebody wasn't willing to invest that, like even just a good pan, a cast iron pan or something is pretty essential. Beyond that, really like not much that they would like absolutely need, correct?
Yeah, cast iron pan for sure, and you can get, like, by Lodge, they're very affordable. I use Lodge, and then I also have, that were gifts, Le Creuset, but they're gotta get fancy, but yeah, they're
Fancy.
both great.
Are there any other tools that you use that didn't end up making it into the book? Like, do you use like a sous vide or a special grill or a smoker or anything like that?
I've actually never used a sous vide.
Oh
I
wow.
would yeah, I'd be interested in trying that. I do use a smoker. We do have a grill. But yeah, I think I included a smoker and it was optional for maybe the brisket. But I know a lot of people don't have that, but I do love a smoker. But if you don't want a smoker, just get smoked salt. It's good
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, good call. Sous vide is awesome, by the way. That maybe that will be your next one. But to be able to like vacuum seal steaks that I buy, I get them at the store on discount, vacuum seal them up, throw them in the freezer, and then when I'm ready for steak, I'll just take a bunch of them, drop them into the sous vide, and frozen at 120 for 2 hours, and they come out perfect. All you need to do is sear them after that. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's also great. Sous vide is great for warming things up too. Like if I ever have like leftover eggs and I'm not able to finish, I just throw them in a vacuum bag and I can throw them right back in the sous vide at a low water temperature, and they'll just warm up and be like perfect kind of temperature and consistency. So that's a good one to add. Um,
Yeah, I
chapter
might need
two,
to get a gift for myself.
there you go. There you go. Chapter 2 of your book is one of my favorites, writing about kids. This is not something I've seen very much of. So why did you decide to take this on?
Yeah, I get comments all the time that I'm gonna give my kids an eating disorder and I'm screwing them up, and you know what, maybe I am. I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. But yeah, I just wanted to share my approach on what we do and why they're not strict carnivore and how we try and teach them, proper nutrition and macros, and we do give them a little bit of freedom when we're out to make their own decisions, because I don't want to say no to all these things and then have them go to a friend's house and binge on all the things. So we give them a little leeway here and there to feel like they, have that power to make their own decisions, even if it's stuff I don't want them to eat. But yeah, we keep everything in the house, like things I can say yes to and things I want them to eat. I have to be mindful about how much fruit they have because I can see them being little sugar addicts. So that's where we teach them about macros. Essentially, it's like, okay, you want a piece of fruit? Well, what protein are you going to have with it? And we just try and keep it simple and, hope that I'm not screwing them up.
It's just the best way to approach it from all the carnivore parents that I've talked to out there. It's just like don't bring the crap in the house. At the end of the day, you're the parent. You can decide how strict or how lenient you want them to be. But if you have mostly or only great options, it gives the kids so much you know, it gives them what am I trying to say? Like it gives them confidence to pick whatever they want, and they feel like empowered is the word I'm looking for. Like they feel really empowered to choose whatever they like, what sounds good in that moment. If you don't have a bunch of crap on hand, that seems the best way to approach it.
Exactly. Yeah. Cause if we have, they do once in a while like get treats, but I don't even want that in the house because if there's leftovers and they're constantly asking me for it and it's annoying. So it's like, I want the treats to be out of the house. So it's, you have it and you're done and you move on. We don't have more of it. So yeah, keep everything in the house, like, things you can say yes to. Like you have control until they get older and they can buy their own food. But yeah, do the best you can while you're able to control what they're eating.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, another question about the kiddos. What have you noticed with them having that option to buy whatever they want or eat whatever they want when they're out of the house? I'm just curious whether they leave the house and go to some party and like binge on sugar and then come back, or do you notice that they are paying attention to how they're feeling a lot more than they used to, and they're self-selecting those kinds of foods anyway?
I see both. My older one, I feel like is starting to be a little bit more aware, or he'll even like say, like, "Mom, I had a cupcake, but I didn't finish it all. I'm listening to my body." So we try and tell them like, listen to your body. And later, when you're not feeling good and you're being all crazy, then I'll point out it's like, okay, it's probably because you ate whatever you ate earlier. So yeah, they don't always make the best decisions because it's that food's addicting and it tastes delicious. Like I don't blame them, but I think, they're understanding that it's not going to be the best things for our body. So while they will have it, I do see my older one starting to control it a little bit more.
That's good. Okay. And then what other foods do you list in that chapter as kind of the safer, like plant foods or other foods that you can include to make, again, the difference between like a carnivore diet being all meat versus animal based, which is like mostly meat. I kind of lump them all together into like a hyper carnivore anyway. But if somebody were to have safe plant foods, what are some of your favorites?
Yeah, so we just offer fruit for the kids. I mean, if they wanted vegetables, I wouldn't keep them from them, but like they're not. It was so funny. My kid the other day was like, "What are we having for dinner?" Because I was going to order something, and I'm like, "And then I can get a side of broccoli." And he's like, "Broccoli?" Like the reaction was so like, "Wait, what did you just say?" Because honestly, I haven't fed them vegetables in probably like over a year. So we just do fruit. I try and keep it mainly to berries. I mean, they will have other stuff, but I wouldn't say they're like keto or anything, but just being aware of, having a lower carb type of fruit. Avocados, pickles. We love pickles, olives. Yeah, I think those would be like my go-tos.
Gotcha. Okay. Have you met any carnivores who missed vegetables after a while?
No.
I don't even think I've heard of that.
No, and I think what you might miss, like, I will say I kind of miss fried Brussels sprouts, but what I liked about them is because 'cause they're crispy and crunchy and salty and fried in oil. So, I think we kind of get the better side of that. Like, I can drink some bacon grease and salt and
Yeah.
be okay.
That's great. Okay, so in the book, you also include meal plans. What is the best way for you to recommend that people use the meal plans? We have used several meal plans. We used to use the Diet Doctor meal plans. They were great before Diet Doctor kind of took a bit of a divergence and don't really do a lot of the same things that we recommend anymore. But their meal plans are really helpful, if nothing else, to kind of visually see what some of these recipes could look like. So and you do a great job laying out all the different types of meal plans. There's several different ones. I believe four different kinds, depending on your level of strictness and adherence to a carnivore diet. But how do you recommend that people use the meal plans to get the most out of them?
Yeah, I think it's just, it just takes a little bit of the brain work out of it. And so we have a regular standard carnivore meal plan, there's a dairy free, and then there's a lion diet. So if you're just starting out on carnivore, I would definitely recommend just starting with the standard. I wouldn't go from day 1 to lion diet unless you have, some autoimmune issues you're trying to deal with. But yeah, just ease into it and then you can see like what type of way you like to eat the best.
Yeah. Okay. What for the person that's looking at those meal plans and seeing the shopping lists that are also included and are thinking like, oh my goodness, meat is so expensive. There's no way I'm going to be able to afford this. What do you tell them?
Grocery store meat is very nutritious. You don't need to buy grass-fed, grass-finished, organic, bathed in the sun, like whatever weird stuff is going on. Like just keep it simple. You can go to Walmart, you can go to Ralph's or whatever you want. It's going to be so much more nutritious than eating a standard American diet. So shop the sales, buy what you love and what you can afford.
Do you spend less now on a carnivore diet than you did before on any of the other diets you were on?
People say they do. I feel like it can be done. But when I start buying those carnivore bars and carnivore snacks and this and that, that can add up. But yes, I mean, it can definitely be done way cheaper because we're not throwing out that bag of spring mix that gets shoved in the back of your fridge anymore, you know?
Yeah, let alone all the snacks that you're
Yeah.
going to need in 2 hours after eating whatever little bit of the spring mix you're going to eat. You're gonna be starving, and so people forget about all the little snacks and little things that add up, all the sugar coffees and all those things that are really, really expensive and add up. Where I think in the book you said, like, for some people, if you're doing, ground beef and you eat the certain amount that you need, you might only be spending $5 to $10 a day, and I've certainly found that to be the case.
Yeah, yeah, if you just keep it simple, have some eggs and ground beef and, steaks when they're on sale and a little bit of dairy if you tolerate it, you can do this very cheaply.
Gotcha. Now, on the recipes themselves, like I said, they all look delicious. How did you decide which ones to include? And how difficult was it to realize that there was going to be a lot that maybe you make or whatever that wouldn't actually make the cut?
Yeah, so I had a long list of there was a lot more that I wanted to get in there. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of depend on what, if I was working on it, I'm like, okay, I just cannot get this one to work, or I'm not feeling this one anymore and I'm feeling this. So it was definitely a working and moving list. And there was a lot of changes as I went through it.
Gotcha. Okay. And the breakfast section in particular does have a lot of egg dishes, although there are alternatives if people can't handle the eggs, which is great. And in every chapter, but in breakfast, I really noticed it in particular. You did such a great job of balancing the very, very simple things with also things that would give a little bit more variety, that would require a little bit more, maybe would require a little bit more time that you'd want to do on the weekends, make things a little bit fancier for the kids. But it's a nice mix of, again, like a recipe can be eggs and bacon, and the recipe's called eggs and bacon. Like that's all the ingredients and all the steps. And so I love that it's a mix of both of those things, because while a lot of us are kind of like you and I, we get to this place in carnivore where it's like a recipe is burger patty, or it's steak or eggs, or it's just a one ingredient thing. Some people do miss the variety and do miss kind of spicing it up for the kids and doing other things.
Yeah, so that's why I think it's nice to, yes, there are basic recipes in there for the people that like to keep it simple, but part of the theme was for this book was for those of you who are sick of burger patties and steaks and you just want to be a little bit more creative to help keep this way of eating sustainable for you. And it's fun. Like, yeah, we can all have burger patties and steaks, but once in a while to like really eat something that's a little, like, different and decadent and different flavors and textures that we're not used to from, meat that I don't know, it's just fun.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, another question. You and Maria does this a little bit as well. The carnivore breads and the chaffles and that kind of thing. I I was fortunate in the fact that when I started carnivore, I was really just kind of mostly meat, and that's kind of where I settled out. So I kind of skipped the step of needing like carnivore breads, but I realized that there is a need for that for some people, like the pizza crust or a tortilla or whatever, which you include in the book. But tell us again, how do you make carnivore bread?
The one I have, let's see, it has cottage cheese, eggs, pork rind, and butter. I feel like that's it. Um, yeah, and it's good. But yeah, a lot of people don't need that. But a lot of people, like, I feel like this is also good for those transitioning into this way of eating that don't just want to do meats. And then it keeps it fun for those who have, maybe you're having guests over or you just want to like change things up here and there. But yeah, it's fun. I love that bread.
How does it taste? I honestly I've never had it. Does it taste like, is it a texture thing? It can't taste like bread, right?
Yeah, no, it's not like a loaf of sourdough. It's actually very dense, like it's kind of like banana bread, so I recommend once you slice it to air fry it and it kind of dries it out a little bit and it just has a very neutral taste. So it is dense because if I were to add more pink pork panko, which is ground up pork rinds, if I were to add more, then it just changes the flavor and it's very pork rindy, which is fine for some. So that's why the texture is a little heavy. So yeah, drying it out, or you just eat it as is. And you can, what I've been doing lately is if you eat it as is without toasting it, you can fry it in a pan with butter, add a little bit of cinnamon, and then you have that like French toast texture. Or I recently added some orange extract to it and it was like a cake. So it kind of just depends on what texture you're doing with what flavors you're using with it.
Interesting. Okay, well that texture makes sense because I think later on in the book, don't you have corn dogs as one of the recipes in there? That kind of texture and thickness sounds like it would be perfect for that.
Yeah, so the corn dog recipe is actually using the same batter that I use for cinnamon rolls and a pizza crust and bagels. So there's one dough that kind of got quite a bit of use out of it.
Gotcha. Okay. You do have a chapter that even mentions salads. You included salads in a carnivore cookbook. Tell us about that.
I feel like everyone that eats a salad, like, you want the goodies on it. You want the dressing, you want the bacon, you want the cheese. Okay, one may argue you might like the crunch of, like, my husband will still get a wedge salad. There's something about, like, the crunch of, the lettuce, but I think it's more of just all of the goodies that go on on top of that. So yeah, we just skipped the plants and went right to the good stuff.
It's kind of like a secret that nobody like knows. Like I'm trying to think back on when I was eating, massive salads, and I love to add like 5 or 6 or 7 different things in with the salad and the lettuce. And again, I agree with you. I think I was looking for like the fatty and salty things that come with it. But like I'm trying to think if I were to go back and do that and just do everything that I was doing before without the salad, that without the lettuce, it would have been way better.
Exactly. Yeah, no one's gonna sit down and have a bowl of lettuce. Like, you're having it as, like, a filler, I feel like, or like a vessel to get all the other goodies in, so
Yeah. So what do your salads look like?
I'm trying to remember what's in there. I think
There
there
was
was, like,
there was a
chicken
chicken
salad.
salad and there was a Cobb salad, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, a Cobb salad because, like, if you think of, like, a chef salad and a Cobb salad, like, almost all the ingredients that are going on top of the lettuce are carnivore friendly, different cuts of meat and deli meat and eggs and cheese and bacon. So, yeah, it's all the good stuff just dumped right in there.
That's great. Hey, in your defense, by the way, like I'm sure you wrote this a long time ago and probably haven't like read through everything since doing it. So we hear from authors all the time, like, look, I can hardly remember, like it just is what it is. So it's
Yeah.
totally fine.
Yeah,
Um,
things are a little foggy, and honestly, like, I should probably flip through the book a little bit more than I have. I did a quick little but I'm, like, afraid to look at it, and I'm afraid to catch a mistake. I'm afraid that maybe there's a typo in a recipe, so someone's gonna go and make it, and it's gonna be messed up, so I'm almost, like, hands off because I don't, like, wanna know, like, ignorance is bliss. So, yeah, half these recipes, like, I couldn't even rattle off everything that's in there. Like, I think I blacked out, half the process of this.
I get it. Yeah, I would probably do the same thing. I totally get it. Um, yeah, okay. And again, thinking back, like there must have been so many that didn't actually make it in. Were they generally like more complicated, more ingredients? Because most of the stuff that made it in to the cookbook, like there's a few things that are a little bit more elaborate, but I don't recall seeing anything that had more than like 8 or 10 ingredients. They were all fairly simple.
Yeah, I feel like it's easy because we don't have much to work with, So when you think back of like old recipes we used to make, well, there's a million plants and veggies and this and that. So you can possibly have a ton of ingredients in it. Geez. So yeah, I'm trying to even remember the ones that didn't make it, but they were more of an elaborate, like carnivorizing old favorites.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. I would tell people like look through a meal plan or some recipes and just know you can always add more things to this, but you don't need to. You can overcomplicate it and make it more challenging, but you really don't need to. You can stick with the most simple stuff, which we've been talking about. And on that note, you have an entire chapter that is simply meat. It's my favorite. That's my favorite chapter in the whole book because that's what I'm looking for in the carnivore community. People are making cookbooks, but they are very complicated and elaborate. And again, I like that, I appreciate that, but also it's not as shareable. It's not a resource that I can just give to somebody because you're right. Some people don't know how to boil water. Like it's really challenging. And so the Simply Meat chapter, I've showed everybody who all of my clients and everything, and like, look at these recipes: salmon bites, steak bites, like burgers, like they're just so easy. Meatballs, like they're so easy to make and so simple, and it gives people again that feeling of empowerment of variety, and makes it so easy.
Yeah, because you know what? A lot of people in this community don't have dairy. And I don't think we need to be eating dairy at every meal either. So I think it's important to just have those basic, simple recipes. And I actually was not getting into it, but I was going back and forth with this guy on Instagram today. And he's like, people don't need to be taught how to make eggs and bacon or steak or how to cook a steak. Cause he's like, oh, your book, it's just, for those that are trying to comfort eat. I'm like, well, there's actually a lot more. I'm like, there's a whole like simply meat section where it's this and that. And that's when he said that. And I'm like, people need to know how to boil water. Like some people are literally just because you know how to cook a steak. And I take that for granted too. Like, I'm like, you just cook it. But a lot of people need some guidance. So yeah, I wanted to make sure to have those in there, even though some people might be like, this is so simple. Why is it in there? But I think more people than people realize need that sort of how-to help.
It's just so funny to me. You're like the sweetest person. I can't even like wrap my head around how much hate you get online. It's so dumb.
You know what? It's just there's so many miserable people out there, and I think they feel better like just lashing out like that, like they want to make me feel bad too. So yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah, it is annoying. We talked about it last time, and like, yeah, we know we're not supposed to take it personal, but it's still hard. But yeah, it just never ends surprising me. Okay, so not only the simple ingredients that you have there, the simple recipes, excuse me, but you also have more like comfort foods in there. These are the ones that are a little bit more elaborate. Some of the carnivore pizzas. Like, what are some of your favorites from that one, if you can remember?
Yeah, so I'm actually doing a pre-sale bonus right now, and in that is a preview of some recipes. So the cinnamon rolls, it's one of my favorites, and I do have two pizza recipes in there. So carnizza, that's one of my favorites. It has pork panko, so I did do another pizza crust recipe that doesn't have pork because I know a lot of people don't eat pork, and I'm like, but can you just eat it? It's so much better with pork panko. No, they don't eat it for religious purposes. So I get that. So aware of that too. So on that one, the dough, I'm actually remembering this now. The dough that I use for the cinnamon rolls and the corn dogs and the pizza, maybe not the cinnamon rolls, but there is an option to sub that out with chicken flour. Now, it's not as good as the pork panko, but there's so many, I'm trying to like make it for everybody. So it's like, okay, in my head, there's dairy free people, there's pork free people, there's this and there's that. So I tried to be as accommodating as I could possibly be.
That's tough. Yeah, it's tough. And you're right. The day I discovered pork panko, oh my goodness, it's so delicious. It makes everything that breaded kind of flavor that's almost like a bacony. It's delicious. I'm glad it made it into so many of your recipes.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too. It's like the new almond flour or it's the new cauliflower.
So good. Okay, you do have a dessert section. Not too many options there, but there are some options, which I think is great. Yeah, you said you took the pictures of all of them, so I know this is genuine. But like when I see the ingredients of something and then I see the picture you took of the ice cream sandwich is like that looks amazing. That looks so good. And then you go to the other side of the page and read the ingredients. I'm like, you can use those ingredients to make something that looks that delicious. Like, how do you make that without having buckets of sugar and make it hold up? It looks delicious.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I think, there's cinnamon and vanilla in a lot of things, and they can be optional, but I feel like those flavors give the illusion of it being sweet because it's just something I don't know, it's like in cookies, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like warmer flavors that tend to go with dessert. So yeah, even though there's no sweetener, you still kind of get that vibe. And someone can add monk fruit or allulose or whatever to any of these if that's how you eat. We don't typically do that. I have once in a while, but I even the monk fruit, like I can tell, like it upset my kid's stomach. So I just
Gotcha.
typically do it without.
Interesting. And that one does require that super kind of trendy, the creamy, I want to say, from Ninja. Is that right?
Oh, you can. I just use like a cheap little Amazon ice cream maker for
Oh,
mine.
oh, nice. Okay, good to know. That's great. And then the very end of the book, you also have dips and sauces. Any favorites there?
Um, Blue cheese cream sauce
That one
is
looks
one of my
good.
favorites. Yeah. And then like I think the whipped feta. So I have these kofta meatballs. I'm a Greek girl, so I had to have kofta meatballs, which has some like warm spices in it that you can leave out. But pairing that with a whipped feta dip, it's mwah.
Yeah, they look amazing. I don't often eat them, but you gave me the idea. With like one of the pictures you took is with some dehydrated meat and the dip right next to it. So that's a great application. I'm going to try that for sure.
Yes, those I need to do that again. I think I haven't made them since making them for the book because taking out that dehydrator can sometimes be like it just feels like a lot and it's such a long process. Like I need instant gratification. When you're dehydrating stuff, it's for your future self, really.
Yeah,
It's 12
yeah.
hours later.
I'm just learning that now. I've learned so far, I've only done a few batches, but so far it's easier for me to do them on a weekend when I can just leave it out, do a batch on Saturday, leave it out, do another batch on Sunday, and then kind of clean everything up and put it away. But you're right. Like it's a gift that pays you back later on for
Yeah,
sure.
and you know what we typically do when we were doing this is, start the cooking process at night, and hope for the best that like knock on wood, it doesn't start a fire, but that way you like wake up to your dehydrated meat.
Yeah, that's a really good tip as well. Awesome. One thing that I forgot that I really wanted to give you a shout out for as well is in the meal plans, you do a great job of using leftovers. So somebody might be cooking something like a base kind of meat that can be used in many, many different recipes. And there's not many meal plans that really take that into account. And you feel like you're making all these like unique meals for breakfast and then for lunch and then for dinner. And then you're ending up with weird amounts of leftovers and different meals where you are kind of like make this big batch of this one thing and then it can go into multiple things later on down the week.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, because not everybody wants to cook a fresh meal every day. And if you're going to use bacon that's in something for Monday and something for Thursday, like let's bake it all at once so you don't have to bake it again. So, luckily, I also had my editors help me with the thought process on this too. They weren't just correcting my grammar, they were like double checking my ingredients and the shopping list because that thing right there was so tedious. Like you don't realize like, adding up all the ingredients and this and that, like probably never again. So enjoy this meal plan. You'll never see me make one again.
That's great. Okay, so this book at the time of the episode release that we're making right now, this book is going to launch tomorrow. So congratulations. What are you going to do when it launches?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I haven't even thought that far because right now it almost feels like it's out because people are getting their advanced copies from my publishing team. Um, I'll probably freak out a little bit. Like I even ordered one too off Amazon, so I'll be getting one in the mail, which feels kind of fun. Um, but yeah, no, I haven't even let myself go there. I should probably celebrate, like not cook that night.
That's a great idea. Yeah, that's awesome. I always wondered, you said you've already got your like advanced copy, but like I wondered how it feels as an author to like finally have something in your hands. I mean, you've been creating so much content, but it's all digital. It's not the same. You might have a viral post, but you can't like hold it. Now you finally have something tangible that you can hold. That must feel awesome.
Yeah, that was wild, and I filmed myself while I was getting the delivery, and I was, like, violently shaking, like, it was so chaotic, but it was just, like, the adrenaline dump to actually, like it's like having a baby, like, you go through this whole long process, and then finally it's there in your arms, like, this whole process was just like pregnancy and childbirth.
Wow, that's amazing. I had completely forgotten about that video. I'm so glad you filmed that. That was great. And yeah, you were you were shaking for sure.
Yeah, I was a wreck, but I wanted to bring everybody along on that journey of seeing it for the first time. So yeah, that was fun.
So glad you do that. Well, you again just do such a great job of making this accessible. I'm so happy for you. I hope you're very, very proud of the end product that came out. This is really going to help a lot of people. I really hope it goes mainstream and more people find it. I think what we said in the introduction that like whether or not you've been at this for a long time or you're just kind of curious about this, you're just hearing about this, you heard about it on Rogan and wonder whether you can pull it off. Your book is pretty complete. I mean, I like Dr. Baker's book to give to somebody to kind of explain the carnivore diet, but you kind of do that in chapter one without going too far into the science. You also have tons of references in the back of the book that's like, if you want to learn more about this, here's 20 or 30 of our mutual friends that you can go and learn more of the particulars in lots of different ways. And so it really, to me, does feel like a complete package of this is going to teach you about the diet, what you need, what you don't need, how to put it together, delicious recipes, all that stuff all in one. And so again, I hope you're really, really proud of it because you did a great job.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like it is a little bit of everything. It could, be a really good gift. And you don't have to be carnivore to use this. You just need to not be vegan, like you can be keto, low carb, or you can eat a standard American diet, but maybe you want to add in a little bit more protein and be more protein focused. So it really is for anybody that eats meat. And yeah, labor of love, a lot of tears, blood, sweat, and tears went into this thing. I just it's been an amazing experience, like, it's definitely, like, a bucket list. I feel so honored to be able to, like, have this in my hands and have this opportunity. So, yeah, I hope everybody loves it, and I hope it helps reach people and just spread the word about carnivore. Like, I just want people to know that carnivore is an option, and so anything can do to, like, help spread that message is just what my passion is.
Yeah, I love that. I'm sure Jeff, knowing Jeff, I'm sure he was there for all of the tears as well. He's just an awesome dude. I really like hanging out with him at some of these conferences. So I'm sure he
Yeah.
was right there along with you for the ride.
Poor guy probably still has PTSD because we are actually talking about this whole process. Um, and yeah, I'm like, what was like your hardest part? Cause it's like, okay, I got the work done. Like, what was your main concern on all this? And it was me, like just me on and how I handled the stress or didn't handle it and how like it kind of affected my family. I'm a very open and honest person. I do not bottle up anything. So like any thought that comes into my head, any emotion, like I'm going to dump it on somebody. So yeah, I think my whole family has been traumatized by this whole process. But you know what? We have it in our hands now. And yeah, it's an awesome accomplishment. I'm really excited for it.
Good. Well, good for you. Last question. What's next for you? You have anything in the works? Are you going to do another cookbook? Like, what do you think is coming down the road?
Possibly another one. Like I said earlier, it's like childbirth. You forget how crazy the process was and you block it all out and all you think about is like, "Oh my gosh, like you're holding this in your hand, like you're holding your baby." And then after a while you're like, "Let's have another baby." You forget how brutal it was. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't said this anywhere, but we are entertaining the idea of a second one. So stay tuned.
Wow. Stay tuned. You heard it here first.
Yes.
Courtney Luna, author of Carnivore in the Kitchen. It is such a joy to have met you in person and gotten to hang out with you. You created something really special. Again, I'm so happy for you and thrilled for you. I'm sure it was tons and tons of work and difficult for the family, but coming out the other side and again having something that is what we all want to do in this community, which is share the message, get the message out there to more people. I think is wonderful. You did a tremendous job. So, where can people go to find you and connect with you and your work, and especially your book?
Yeah, so I'm on all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I always wanna say Twitter. I can't say X, it's
I
just so
know,
weird.
I know. It's Twitter.
Yeah, Pinterest, I mean, I'm everywhere. It's Courtney Luna, and my book is available online at Amazon, Barnes& and Nobles, or I always add an S, Barnes& and Noble, Target, Walmart, and IndieBound. I think that's
Nice.
it.
That's great. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, to see it in kind of mainstream bookstores as well is so great to again just get that message out there. More people seeing the cover and even wondering like what is carnivore? Like every time I go to one of these conferences and it seems like there's so much attention on carnivore, but it's only within this one conference center with people that are generally low carb anyway. You go right outside and realize that we're so far away. We've got so much work to do
We
getting
do.
that message out
We
there.
do have a lot of work to do. Yeah, and, not to, like, sound salesy, but grabbing this book is a great way to vote with your dollar and be part of getting this out. So right now, like, they're only gonna be sold online, but if we sell, a ton, then a store might be like, "Oh, let's pick it up and sell in store," and just imagine, like, the other eyeballs that could find this way of eating.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. Even just the idea of giving it away as a gift, I think is wonderful. And a lot of people don't really think about that. We've got the holidays coming up. And yeah, whether somebody is carnivore or not, this would still be very helpful to at least tell them, teach them how to cook meat properly and make it really delicious. So Courtney did a wonderful job. I was so glad to be able to tell you that. And yeah, thank you so much for your work. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to come on our show today. We really appreciate you.
thanks so much for having me on again. I love
Of
it.
course, such an honor. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.